Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this really interesting insight on dollar-INR. I want to show you certain charts on dollar-INR, certain ability that dollar-INR has always shown, and also we look at dollar-INR compared to its Asian pairs, something that I had discussed last week, but I want to continue how it is behaving this time. Okay, so first, this is the dollar-INR onshore chart. Okay, the 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Indian time. So typically we see a lot of gaps. So this time I want to explain the phenomena of gap filling in dollar-INR. So if you look at this daily chart, okay, this is since September last year till now. Okay, so if you look at this chart, we see a lot of gaps. Remember, it is from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So from 3:30 till the next morning 9, there is a gap. So European session works, US session works. So there is a tendency of gap opening, either gap up or gap down in dollar-INR prices. So look at these gaps. Okay, multiple gaps. If you look at the last 1 year or so, a gap here and an island reversal here, up gap followed by a down gap, and then there are multiple gaps. There is a gap here, there is a gap here. So many gaps that are formed in dollar-INR. There are gaps here as well. Okay, so what we see here is that dollar-INR usually, or not, I wouldn't say usually, on multiple occasions it forms either an up gap or a down gap. But what I want to emphasize is the ability of the exchange rate to fill the gaps. I'll give you a classic recent example. Look at this level, okay, this gap. It was formed just about a couple of weeks back, 12th to 13th of June, and it was in between 85.63 to 85.93. Okay, and just see, after that we saw the prices going higher, and in a couple of weeks time it has come down to close the gap today. Today it touched 85.62 as the low, so that gap is filled. Okay, so big ability of dollar-INR to fill all its gap. So this green horizontal lines which I had drawn last time, that gap, lines will go off because that gap is filled now. Now that leaves us with a question: are there unfilled gaps in dollar-INR? Unfilled gaps that might fill up in the future, which tries to give an indication of how the currency might move in the future. So there are two unfilled gaps. One gap was formed early this week when we saw this huge move. On Monday it was around 86, 70, 80 levels, and then suddenly on Tuesday we came to 86, 20 levels. So there is a big gap between 25 to almost 60, 65. Okay, almost 35, 40 paisa gap. That gap is unfilled. Remember, it is 86, 25 to 86, 65 levels. Then the other small gap which has been unfilled since a very long time is a small gap around 87, 18 to 20. Okay, quite far off, but remember, these gaps tend to fill up. I want to show you another chart. Okay, that is a slightly more interesting chart. Okay, this is the rebase chart which we usually follow. Rebase chart of all Asian currencies and including dollar-INR on it. Okay, so if you see from April onwards, this is just last 2.5 to 3 months, it is since April 25 onwards. If you see, there is a general tendency of all Asian currencies to gain. The white line is the dollar index. So if the dollar index has fallen, all the Asian currencies will gain, and that is what we have seen. Korean won, Singapore dollar, Malaysian ringgit, all these currencies have gained quite heavily in the last 2 to 3 months. So last week I had indicated that dichotomy. When was this date? 20th of June. I had indicated that dichotomy, that Asian currencies are gaining, but the INR is still weak. See, INR is higher, so it is still in the positive territory. But after last week till now, just 4 working days, we have seen the dollar-INR coming down, which means that it is now coming slightly in tandem with the weak dollar index and following the gains of other Asian currencies. So I had indicated last time, I had shown this chart also, if everyone remembers, that at this level, levels above 86, 60, 70, 80, those are very good levels for exporters to sell. And in just about 4-5 days, it has come down and it is around 85, 70. It is almost more than 1 rupee lower than what we were discussing last week. So this is how it has happened in the past. So what is there for the future now? More interesting and more exciting, what is there for the future? Now see, dollar index, as I showed you in this chart, is heavily down. Okay, DXY is at multi-year lows. So what does that mean? If dollar is lower and weaker, all the other currencies should gain. Rupee has just gained a bit, which tends to indicate that it might gain a bit more. Okay, so I'm sure importers will get better chances to hedge. But if you do get levels below 85, I'm not saying it is going to go below 85. I'm saying there is a bigger probability of rupee to gain when the DXY or the dollar index is weak. So if rupee does gain and go to really attractive levels, probably 84.50, around those, the importers should look to hedge. But as of now, importers wait and watch. Exporters, I had already suggested last week to hedge. If you have hedged, fantastic. If you have not hedged, then try and look for vanilla options rather than doing forwards. That's it from now. Keep following us for more insights on the forex markets.